One of the most famous sagas of Icelanders, and one of the shortest, is Hrafnkel's saga Freysgoða, the saga of Hrafnkel, the Godi, or priest, chieftain of Frey, the god of agriculture. This saga is also an interesting window into not just the sagas themselves as a genre, but into how the sagas viewed the law of the medieval Icelandic Republic. Under this system, a Godi was a chieftain who had particular men, usually in a given district, who pledged their allegiance to him, and he would resolve their disputes and act as something of a chieftain. He would gather taxes, and at least before Christianity, he would maintain a temple in that district. So Hrafnkel is a Godi somewhere in eastern Iceland. The geography of the saga is actually very precise, but I don't have a map here, so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of that. And Hrafnkel has a horse named Freyfoxi. Foxy means mane, so it's common in the names of horses, and Frey is, of course, the name of the god of agriculture. And Hrafnkel is so dedicated to Frey that he has given this horse to him. It is a sort of sacrifice without killing the animal. He's not using the animal. It is sacrifice to the god given to him. And Hrafnkel has made an oath that he will kill anyone who rides this horse. This may be less extreme than it seems, because the penalty for stealing horses in general was death. And no doubt Hrafnkel is expecting that anybody who would steal the horse would be a straight-up horse thief. But as we'll see, it gets more complicated than that. There is a pair of brothers who live in Hrafnkel's district named Bjarni and Thorbjorn. Bjarni has two sons, Som and Oyvind, and Thorbjorn has several children, but the oldest, the only adult male, is Einarr. Einarr is told by his father Thorbjorn one spring that he doesn't have enough work for him at the farm, and food is too thin, so he's going to have to go and find work somewhere else to earn his keep. This is disappointing for Einarr because, of course, and spring really is a difficult time in a lot of agricultural societies because, of course, during the winter you might have hay put away for your animals, you might have food put away for yourselves, but in spring, you know, if the thaw comes late, it may be a while before your animals can go out and graze again, and your stores may run really low. So Einarr has to go look for work, but unfortunately, the days when people hire farmhands have already passed. So he goes to Hrafnkel, the district Godi chieftain, and asks if he has work. And Hrafnkel says, well, I only have the lowest, most shameful work that no free adult man would ever want to take, and that's herding my sheep. But Einarr says he'll take whatever he's got. You know, he needs food and a place to sleep for a year, and so Hrafnkel gives him his job as sheep herder, but he stipulates that Einarr can ride any one of his horses except Freyfoxi. He says that he has sworn an oath to kill any man who rides Freyfoxi, and Einarr says, well, I wouldn't possibly be unlucky enough that I would ride the one horse that I would be killed for riding. So time passes, and Einarr is out herding the sheep one day when half of the sheep run away, and he spends all day looking for them and can't find them. Toward the end of the day, he thinks that maybe he could cover some more distance if he could ride a horse, so he goes out to where the herd is. Freyfoxi has several mares, and he tries to catch a mare, but all of them shy away from him. Only Freyfoxi stands still, and so finally Einarr thinks no one will ever know. He throws a saddle blanket over Freyfoxi, mounts him, and rides off. He rides him through the night, through the next day, and finally finds the sheep toward the sunset of the next day. So he's been riding this horse for 24 hours. The horse is exhausted, and the horse is just covered with sweat, and it's dirty up to its knees. So the horse rolls around in the mud and then runs straight to Hrafnkel while Einarr is futilely trying to catch it. So Freyfoxi gets to Hrafnkel's house, and Hrafnkel hears a neck, which is what an Old Norse horses say, outside. So he sends one of his serving women outside. He says, you know, I heard a horse neigh, and it sounded to me like it might be Freyfoxi, my foster son. That's what he calls Freyfoxi. So the serving woman goes outside, finds out it is indeed Frey, and Hrafnkel comes outside to see what's wrong, and he sees this horse dripping with sweat and covered in mud. and he realizes someone has ridden him. So he says, well, my foster son, you have done wisely in coming to tell me about this. Now go home and know that I will take care of it. So Freyfoxy goes home to his mares. Hrafnkel goes to bed that night, and he wakes up the next morning and he puts on his blue clothes. Now, I've discussed in another video that I'll link in a card in the top right that colors in Old Norse are a somewhat contentious topic, but having studied this for my doctoral dissertation and some subsequent studies, I believe that the color blår in Old Norse does mean blue, although many translators translate it as black. At any rate, this color is often worn by men who are going off to kill. This probably has something to do with the fact that blue is an expensive dye, and you are putting on, you're literally dressing to kill. You're putting on your best clothes for what is, after all, a public event in the old Icelandic Republic. So Hrafnkel puts on his blue clothes and he rides out to where Einarr is, and he says, Einarr, what's the news? Einarr says, well, I lost some sheep the other day, but I found them. Hrafnkel says, lost sheep is not really news, but didn't you ride Freyfoxy a little bit? Nokut, a little bit, somewhat. You know, he seems a little bit, he's hedging here a little bit maybe, or giving Einarr room to hedge, and Einarr says, well, yes, I confess that I did ride him, and Hrafnkel says, well, it's good that you confessed, but I have sworn an oath, after all, to kill a man who rides this horse, and the saga says that because of the belief that no good would come to men who broke their oaths, Hrafnkel jumped down from his horse and killed Einarr with this axe. Having done this, Hrafnkel buries Einarr. He doesn't just throw the body away, he's being somewhat respectful, and news reaches Thorbjorn, Einar's dad, that Einarr has been killed by Hrafnkel. Thorbjorn is an old man, feeble, but he rides straight to Hrafnkel, who is well known for having never paid compensation to anyone for a killing. In the old Icelandic Republic, as in many other old Germanic societies, you could pay a monetary price or a price in property to the family of someone that you had killed as a way to end the feud. If you pay an agreed upon price, then the family does not have the right to come after you for blood vengeance anymore. But Hrafnkel is so proud and so powerful that he has never paid a price. He's simply left all of his victims before uncompensated. But Thorbjorn comes to Hrafnkel and asks him for compensation for his son. This is a really bold thing to do for a feeble old man coming to his own regional chieftain. And Hrafnkel says, you know, I feel that of all my killings, this one is the worst, and I will offer you this price for Einarr. I will put you up for the rest of your days. I will feed you, and when you are too feeble to live at your own home, you can come to my home, and I will treat you like my own father till you die of natural causes, and I will find husbands for your daughters and wives for your sons, and good matches and good land for them to live on. I will set your family up for life. Thorbjorn says, I don't accept this. So Hrafnkel says, well, what do you want then? And Thorbjorn says, I want legal arbitrators to decide what the price is that you'll pay for Einarr. Now this is surprising, of course, because Hrafnkel has just offered Thorbjorn more than any legal arbitration would ever actually stipulate that he owes him. So it's hard to say what exactly is going on. Maybe Thorbjorn feels like he needs legal arbitrators because he thinks that Hrafnkel won't follow his word. But of course, the fact that Hrafnkel did keep his promise that he would kill anyone who would ride the horse is what got him into the situation in the first place. At any rate, Hrafnkel just kind of shakes his head, doesn't understand Thorbjorn, and Thorbjorn rides away to visit his brother, Bjarni. So Thorbjorn comes to Bjarni, his brother, and says, what's happened? And Bjarni says, well, did you talk to Hrafnkel about it? And Thorbjorn says, I did. And he says, well, did he offer you any compensation? And Thorbjorn says, yes, he offered to set me up for life. Bjarni says, well, of course you took that, right? And Thorbjorn says, no. Bjarni just calls him an idiot and sends him away. So Thorbjorn now goes to his nephew, Bjarni's son, Som, and tells him the situation. Now, Som is well known as a lawyer, and when he initially refuses, Thorbjorn starts working on him and saying, you know, you're supposed to be this famous lawyer, you're always taking these cases and trying to build a legal reputation for yourself. Now you won't take a case of a murder, and a murder that actually struck your first cousin. That axe hit closest to me, but it also hit not so far from you. He is your first cousin that got murdered here. So Som takes a hint. He's susceptible to this kind of incitement, and he agrees to help, although as he shakes hands with Thorbjorn, he says, "I just want you to know that I think I'm shaking hands with a moron." So Psalm legally subpoenas Hrafnkel. He goes to his place and tells him, see you in court. And as the Althing, the national court and festival of Iceland, draws near in the summer, Hrafnkel makes his way to it, and Psalm makes his way to it separately. Psalm and Thorbjorn at the Althing go around and try to win support for their case against Hrafnkel because they know they're going to need a lot of people to help them out. Hrafnkel has been known to just break up courts that are about to convict him. He has no real respect for the legal process. But nobody will help them out. Everywhere they go, people say they don't want to take on Hrafnkel. He's too well known for flaunting the law and never paying back anybody, and he's a bully who will just be violent against anyone who opposes him. So they can get no support. One morning, Thorbjorn and Psalm go down to the river to wash their faces, and Thorbjorn just breaks down and says, "I think we're wasting our time. I think we should pack up and mount up and go home." But at this point, Psalm has been driven too hard by Thorbjorn and by his own desire to see this thing through, and he tells Thorbjorn that he is going to see it through no matter what to the very end, which leads Thorbjorn to a very rare example of manly tears in the sagas. Now across the river they see a new man they haven't seen before. This man is dressed in green, which is a rare color in the sagas, and he has a streak of light blonde hair in his brown hair, so he's called Thorkel the Streak. He introduces himself that way. And he has been away serving in the Varangian Guard in Constantinople. These were the Viking bodyguards of the Byzantine Emperor. And he's only recently returned to Iceland, and they ask him if he is a Godi. He says no, he's not, but his brother Thorgeir is a Godi. And they say, well, where? And he says, well, in the West Fjords, about as far away in Iceland as you can get from Hrafnkel. And they ask if maybe Thorgeir, his brother the Godi, would help them in their case against Hrafnkel. Thorkel Streak says he thinks that maybe he would, but they will have to follow his advice on how to get his support. He says that old Thorbjorn is going to have to stumble into Thorgeir's tent where he's still sleeping in his sleeping bag, and Thorgeir has a boil on his toe that's been causing him extreme pain. He says when Thorbjorn stumbles into the tent, he needs to grab at that infected toe and just yank on it. And Thorbjorn and Psalm don't understand the plan, but they go along with it because this is their only chance to get some help. So they go over to Thorgeir's tent. Thorbjorn stumbles in, grabs the toe like he was instructed, and Thorgeir wakes up shouting in pain and asks what the hell he's doing. So Thorkel Streak comes in and says, "Brother, you have this infection on your foot that's causing you pain more than any of us could understand, but this man, Thorbjorn, has lost his son and has not been compensated for that loss, and that's causing him more pain than the rest of us can understand. I'm not here to say which one is more painful, only that both affect each man in a way only he understands." Something like this. It's a strange speech. But after working on him a while like this, they get Thorgeir's support, and together with him and a lot of men from the West Fjords that he rounds up, they surround the court when Psalm goes to prosecute Hrafnkel for the killing of Einarr. Psalm delivers his case very well. He follows all the legal formulae, and at the end, Hrafnkel is barred from entering the court by all the supporters of Thorgeir and Thorkel Streak, so he can't come in and offer a legal defense of himself. Because of this, and with nobody there who wants to offer a defense of him because he's a bully, Hrafnkel is convicted of the killing, and he is outlawed. This means he has 2 weeks before a Godi can come and confiscate his property and kill him or kick him out of Iceland. And since Hrafnkel is the Godi in his district, that means that a Godi from some other district is going to have to go and carry out this confiscation and see that the penalty is enforced, because there's no police in medieval Iceland, right? It is someone has to decide to go and make sure that the law is carried out. And so Thorgeir and Thorkel decide they will go with Psalm to make sure that Hrafnkel's property is confiscated, and he goes into outlawry. The 2 weeks pass, and on the very first day that the confiscation court can be held, Thorgeir, Thorkel Streak, and Psalm, together with their supporters, ambush Hrafnkel at his own home and drag him out of bed. They start dragging him and his 7 men of fighting age along with him over to a large log that is suspended between 2 houses on Hrafnkel's farm. And this log is where they hang their dirty laundry to dry. Hrafnkel can sense that they're probably going to torture him here, so he starts pleading with them not to torture any of them, because that would just affect their own honor. I mean, what a dishonorable thing to do, to torment people before you're going to kill them. And besides, there's no reason to kill anybody except Hrafnkel. Hrafnkel's the one they want, right? So just kill him. You know, it's rather noble given the situation. But Thorkel Streak seems bent on teaching Hrafnkel a lesson here. He says, well, you have often caused other people torment, and now you're going to feel some torment yourself. And he has each one of these men, Hrafnkel and his 7 men, pierced behind their Achilles tendon. He doesn't have the Achilles tendon cut, but he has them pierced behind it. He has a rope strung through that hole in their heels, and then has the men hung upside down from this log. Horrible torment. And all the while, Thorgeir and Solm proceed with the confiscation. Solm offers Hrafnkel one of 2 choices: either to live and have all of his property and his role as Godi taken over by Solm, or to die. And Hrafnkel says, well, I will do what anyone would do, and I will choose life, even though some might choose a heroic death, but know that I choose life mostly for the sake of my sons. They also kill Frey. They put a bag over the horse's head and push him over a cliff with some long poles. Putting a bag over something's head is often done to prevent it from casting the evil eye. This is often done, for instance, to witches or wizards if you want to kill them, or to an animal associated with a god, like Frey is. Years pass. Hrafnkel lives, but he is sent away from the farm with just his wife and kids and his spear. But he manages to buy a new farm for himself on credit to begin with, and he becomes rich all over again, and in fact becomes a Godi all over again. So in the space of a few years, he gains back the wealth and power that he had lost. One day he learns that Oyvind, Solm's brother, has returned to Iceland after his time spent abroad, and Hrafnkel lays an ambush for Oyvind, killing him and all the men with him. This is kind of an interesting scene because Oyvind is riding across this muddy expanse towards Solm's farm when a man who's with him sees Hrafnkel and some men riding toward him and says, you know, I think that's Hrafnkel coming toward us, and it looks like he's wearing blue. Right, always a bad sign. And Oyvind says, well, I don't think there's any sort of any cause for conflict between me and Hrafnkel, so I'm not going to run away. And this ends up being, you know, sort of famous last words. Not long after this, Hrafnkel revisits Solm at what was once Hrafnkel's farm, busts into the home of Solm in the morning, just like Solm busted into Hrafnkel, and gives him 2 choices: either to live but lose all of his property and status, or to die. And Solm also takes the chance to live. The saga more or less ends there, with Hrafnkel actually coming out on top after his period of outlawry. But Solm does go back to the West Fjords to talk to Thorkel Streak and Thorgeir and ask them to come back to eastern Iceland and help him get rid of Hrafnkel, but they refuse, saying that Solm should have just killed Hrafnkel when he had a chance. They also offer Solm the opportunity to move into the West Fjords with them, but like anybody, Solm is reluctant to move. So Solm returns to Iceland, to eastern Iceland, lives out his life in relative poverty and misery, while Hrafnkel becomes twice as powerful, twice as wealthy as he was before. People see different messages in the saga, if there is a message and it's not just entertainment. Hrafnkel does keep his word, and in the end that does seem to make him the man who comes out on top. But at the same time, all the characters are portrayed very sympathetically, especially old Thorbjorn, who we really do feel for in losing his son and having to go up against a much more powerful man and trying to seek some kind of compensation for that, if you can ever truly be compensated for the loss of a family member like that. There are many studies of the saga, probably more about this than any other. For some reason, the saga just attracts people to spill all kinds of ink over it. One good recent book about it is called Hrafnkel, or The Ambiguities by William Ian Miller. So that's a very interesting reading of the saga that I recommend. For now, from beautiful Colorado, I'm wishing you All the best.